Welcome to Founders Day. Yes, it's a very exciting day. I am delighted to be sharing this Bryn Mawr tradition with all of you in our most special place, the graduation garden. And once again, Mother Nature has cooperated with an absolutely magnificent morning for us, so thank you very much to her. Founders Day marks Bryn Mawr's 135th birthday, and we're here to celebrate our school, our history, and our founders' bold vision for educating girls. And of course, we will honor the truly exceptional faculty and staff who carry this mission forward today. I want to warmly welcome some special people and ask them to just stand up and give you a wave when I call their name. First, we have our chair of the Board of Trustees, Hadley Hubbard Feist, class of 1982. And we have members of our Board of Trustees up front and in the back. Could you just rise and give us a wave? The Board of Trustees helps us run the school and stewards us into the future. I know we have several alumni out there, so how about having our alumni stand up today? We have some former faculty here in the audience. Could you stand up as well, faculty and staff? I can't see them, but I know they're out there. And we have a very special guest, Barbara Chase, who is the former headmistress of Bryn Mawr School. She was the headmistress from 1980 to 1994. Could you give us all a wave, Ms. Chase? It's really a special treat to have her here today. Ms. Chase is a historian, so I know she's going to love today's speakers, and we're so happy to have her back. And I also want to welcome all of you, our students. Let's have you stand up. You are the most important part of the Bryn Mawr story. You are the reason we're here. And as of yesterday, all of our students and faculty were sorted into 5 different houses. And today I want to hear from those houses. Let's hear from those resilient daisies. How about the reflective moons? Sparkling stars? Brilliant suns? And wise owls? I'm an owl, so we planned that yesterday. But we all have a little piece of each house in us because we are all part of the Bryn Mawr Martian Nation. So yesterday, we spent time in our families writing notes to send to last year's Bryn Mawr seniors who are now off at college. And I hope you know how important this small act of kindness is to the 84 college students who will be so surprised, unless they watch the video of this, so surprised to receive these notes and gifts from our school community. This connects us to those who have gone before us, and it reminds our alumni that they will always be a part of Bryn Mawr's history. Headmistress Barbara Chase was known for saying, "No one ever really leaves Bryn Mawr." It leaves an indelible imprint on your mind, your heart, and your soul. Your notes will serve as a reminder of that to our alums, an important link to home and to Bryn Mawr for the class of 2019. Today we'll begin with our 5th graders performing Come Let Us Gather, our school prayer, and Marty Dittmar and Mason Philip Auguste will lead us in Joyous the Love. Could you rise for the school prayer? Watch over our school, O Lord, as its years increase, and bless and guide its children wherever they may be, keeping them ever unspotted from the world. Let their hearts be pure, their faith unshaken, their principles immovable. Be thou by their side if dark hours shall come upon them. Strengthen them when they stand, comfort and help them when they are weak-hearted. Raise them up if they fall. Let thy light never grow dim to their eyes, but through the struggle and the business of their everyday lives, let its radiance lead them heavenward. And in thy hearts may thy peace, which passeth understanding, abide all the days of their life. Our 5th graders are going to sing Come Let Us Gather. And since this is our Come Let Us Gather theme year, it's an important song for us.
please rise and join us in the school song.
Thank you, Mason, and our fifth graders for beautiful music to start today off. Bryn Mawr's founding 135 years ago by Mary Elizabeth Garrett, Mamie Gwynn, Elizabeth King, Julia Rogers, and Martha Carey Thomas marked the beginning of women's college preparatory education in Baltimore. As young women of their time, they wished for the same kind of rigorous education that their brothers were receiving. And despite the fact that many people thought girls could never manage it, our founders knew that women were every bit as capable as men. That might sound obvious now, but at the time it was a radical idea. And our founders' beliefs formed the basis of our mission today, to give girls extraordinary preparation for considered and consequential lives. We look beyond college to the impact girls can, do, and will have on the world. We honor our founders' vision for girls' education and independence. Today, we include all women in that vision, for at its beginning, Bryn Mawr did not. On this day each year, I like to remind our students that a founding is only a beginning. And like people, institutions have the power to grow and learn. Yes, our founding is part of the school's identity and history. And while our founders' initial vision was limited to girls like themselves, they ultimately opened the door for all of us. The school has changed many times in its 135 years, and it will continue to evolve. Each of us is a part of its ongoing growth and evolution. Each of us, in a way, is a founder. Together, we carry forth the best of the founder's mission and spirit and look toward the future. Since on this day we recognize the excellence of our faculty and staff, I would like to ask them to stand and express my deep gratitude to and respect for all of our Bryn Mawr adults who day in and day out strive to help you become your best self. I know they are invested in your success, and they are relentless in challenging you to stretch, to think, to grow, and to believe in yourselves. I thank them for their commitment to you and our mission. Let's have you stand up and get some applause. Perhaps no one is more familiar with our school's history and evolution than this morning's speakers, Dr. Irina Spector-Marx and Dr. Kim Riley. For the past 3 years, they, along with archivist Claire Rubin, Upper school history teachers Kevin Yeager and Karen Cullen, as well as numerous Bryn Mawr students, have been exploring Bryn Mawr's past and its evolution to becoming a more equitable institution. They've delved into primary sources, conducted oral history interviews with alumni, and scoured the Bryn Mawr archives, thanks to Ms. Ruban, who maintains them, to re-examine the story of our past through the Bryn Mawr History Project. We are fortunate that these two resident historians are also Bryn Mawr alumni who feel invested in this project and telling our school's authentic and complex story. Dr. Spector Marks graduated from Bryn Mawr in 2004 and received a BA in history from Macalester College and a PhD in history from the University of Illinois. After years in the Midwest, she returned to Baltimore in 2016 to start teaching at Bryn Mawr. Dr. Riley graduated from Bryn Mawr in 1979 and attended Mount Holyoke College. She received a PhD in history from Johns Hopkins University, where she taught for 17 years before coming to Bryn Mawr in 2011. Together, they valued the opportunity to think more about Bryn Mawr and lead the way for our school and other communities to understand and think deeply about their past and present as a way to ensure that every member of the community feels welcomed and valued. We want to warmly welcome their special guests today, Dr. Spector Marks' wife, Esther, mother, Sharon, Dr. Riley's husband, Lee, her mother, Harriet, her mother-in-law, Helen, and her sister-in-law, Fern. So let's give all of them a round of applause. And now I invite Dr. Spector Marks and Dr. Riley to come to the podium.
When people find out we were students at Bryn Mawr, they often ask, what is it like to teach at a school you graduated from? There isn't a quick answer to this question, in part because I would say I wouldn't know. The Bryn Mawr I graduated from is so fundamentally different from the Bryn Mawr that I teach at that one might go so far as to say they really aren't the same place at all. The school has transformed itself in its many key historical moments, leaving behind echoes and memories, the legacy of earlier versions, while adding in the new. The school, like all good institutions, is in a continual process of revision. There has never been one true Bryn Mawr or one finite moment of founding.
Even Founders Day itself is a relatively new tradition. It didn't exist at all 35 years ago, so for instance, when Dr. Riley was here. When we gather on Founders Day, we think of ourselves as celebrating a moment in time. An institution is created, it exists, and here we are 135 years later, celebrating our school's success, its long history, its continued, enduring existence in time and space. We think in terms of sameness. There is a fixed Bryn Mawr school, and we often go back to the founders, not only to celebrate them, but to understand who we are and what we are doing here. Yet as Dr. Riley and I think about our long experience with Bryn Mawr, what stands out to us is not an entity trapped in time, bound by the past, but a dynamic, evolving, alive institution constantly adapting to the world outside, trying to meet the needs of students in whatever present we inhabit. What is exciting about Founders Day is that we are reminded of that ever-changing history of the school, and we are invited to take part in the process of change. Working on the history of the school has only reinforced our sense of Bryn Mawr as an evolving institution that has had to balance real-world economic drivers with a progressive spirit.
So how has Bryn Mawr evolved from my perspective? I graduated 40 years ago, and those sitting here today have walked through a campus that didn't exist when I was a student. Imagine this. There was no North Building, no Little School, no dance studio, no Centennial Hall. The Howell Building was much smaller, and the fireplace in the Commons Room was actually the center of the old library. I spent a lot of time reading in the chairs before that fireplace, staring up at the portrait of Edith Hamilton, which now hangs in the corner of the new library entrance, but at that time was placed above the fireplace and above her famous quotation, "Civilization is the delight in the things of the mind." While I didn't know it at the time, that portrait of Edith Hamilton, the scholar, would come to mean a great deal to me. As a graduate student in history in the days when there were very few women in that field, I sat in many rooms hung with portraits of male scholars. This could have been discouraging, but for me it wasn't. I always carried with me that sense, embodied in Miss Hamilton's portrait, that I was part of a great lineage of female scholarship. And I've always felt grateful to Bryn Mawr for its ongoing celebration of women's minds. There were no seats in the auditorium when I was here. We sat flopped on the floor, always wanting to lie down, with teachers standing in the back, glaring at our slumped bodies, willing us silently to sit up straight. Gilman's auditorium, with its comfy seats, was a real contrast, and it was clear how much more money the boys' school had than we did. And subliminally, perhaps, it was also clear that boys' voices and experiences were valued more highly. The school was also far less diverse than it is today. When I look out at my classes, I see students from a wide variety of backgrounds and countries. But when I was a student, there were no exchange programs, no international students, and diversity was still thought of primarily in terms of Jewish students. My class had 4 African American students, and that was considered serious diversity. There were no Asian students at all, and the classroom attempts to reach beyond the majority centered on the issues of anti-Semitism and the Jewish experience in America. We read Chaim Potek in English class, and in history talked a lot about the sufferings of the State of Israel, still reeling at that time from the 1973 war. But we didn't get off school for the Jewish holidays, and before every winter break, we had a tableau in which a large part of the upper school reenacted the nativity scene in silence while passages were read from the Bible. I was the narrator for 2 years, and I can't remember a single moment where anyone questioned whether it was wise to put on a religious reenactment or to use the term Christmas vacation. Harder to express in just a few sentences is that the school was only just beginning to diversify its white student body. A large number of students, and the classes were much smaller then, came from the surrounding areas of Roland Park, Ruxton, Homeland, and Guilford. And the very few students we had from, say, far away in Harford County expressed often feeling isolated, different, and like they didn't fit in. Adults tended to reinforce this division between old girls whose mothers, sisters, and cousins had attended Bryn Mawr and everyone else. I had a friend who came in 9th grade so her father could work at Johns Hopkins, who was referred to as the new girl by some teachers and coaches until she graduated 4 years later. Parents also reinforced this mentality, often asking as an opening question who your parents were and where did you live, nodding if you gave the right answers, and looking slightly less enthusiastic if you didn't. Looking back, the school was clearly beginning to diversify, but by our standards today, very little of that process had actually occurred, and there was almost no support system, no cafe, no E3 day, no diversity director, and not one of the affinity clubs existed when I was a student here.
Unlike Dr. Riley, much of the physical spaces of today's campus existed when I was a student here in the late 90s and early 2000s. What strikes me is the shifting uses of these spaces and how that reflects our changing student body and educational philosophy. When I walk through the new student center, I find myself tracing where spaces used to be, old hallways and rooms that are now repurposed or erased and written over. It's an odd space and an odd feeling, the same structure, but different, a preserved exoskeleton with a new organism living inside. As alums who teach here, we experience this a lot, the echo of 2 in 1, an old memory papered over with the current reality, ghosts of the past looking over our shoulders into the present. The Student Center has plenty of room for ghosts. Created in 1949, it's undergone numerous revisions, reimaginings, and rebuildings in 87, 92, 2019. Even before it was the Student Center, this was a crucial hub of campus, offering students space to perform, eat, exercise, and hang out. The gym lobby, most recently known as the junior classes space, was, in an earlier incarnation when I was a student, unofficially a popular place for African American students to congregate and relax with each other. During play rehearsals, theater kids owned that corridor between the cafeteria and Centennial Hall. the part closest to Northern Parkway has served, just in my memory, as the athletic department and trainer's office, the nurse's office, and the resource center. Imagine walking essentially to the edge of campus if you wanted help with an English essay or a math test. Spaces shift as needs do, and as the campus and its students grow, we revise, copying and pasting, papering over, tearing out, and building up. But always, the memory of the past lingers on, reverberating through our current experiences. Sometimes those pasts affect us when we don't necessarily know about them. When I came to Bryn Mawr in the 6th grade, I was in awe. Coming here on financial aid, I knew, my parents made sure I knew, that I was privileged to be here, that very few people got to experience the beauty and joy and challenge of this place. As soon as I walked onto campus, though, I knew I was home. This was my place. I fit here in a way I hadn't anywhere else. Bryn Mawr made space for me to be my weird, introverted, intellectual self. Searching for validation of that sense of belonging, I tried to immerse myself in the past, to almost dissolve myself into Bryn Mawr's history, to make its identity and my identity one. One day, I was walking down the portico, thinking to myself how proud the founders would be of me. I loved learning, and I loved Bryn Mawr. And then I stopped, dead in my tracks, halfway between Garrett and Hamilton, because I realized, no, actually, the founders wouldn't have wanted me at their school at all. I was Jewish, for one, and for another, I was on financial aid. In some ways, I was their ideal student, but in 1885, I wouldn't have been an ideal student at all. That realization hit me hard. But almost immediately on the heels of that rejection, I thought, well, joke's on them. I'm here, and I'm awesome, and this is my place. I was able, eventually, to assert my own identity as part of Bryn Mawr without subsuming myself within the school. I was staking a claim, asserting that I was as much an essential part of Bryn Mawr as those long ago founders who, perhaps, wouldn't have wanted me. I was, although I didn't know it yet, remaking the history of Bryn Mawr, first as a student and later as a teacher.
2 years ago, along with other faculty and students, we began investigating the history of Bryn Mawr beyond the well-known story of the founders. Working on this project, we learned that the history of the school, which we both experienced in such different ways, is very nuanced, complicated, and often unexpected. For example, whereas Dr. Spector Marx assumed as a student that no Jews were admitted in the early years of the school, and I knew Jewish students to be the new minority in the 1970s, in fact, we both learned that the founders disagreed about whether or not to admit diverse students. After much conflict, the school admitted its first Jewish student in 1886, the year after the school was founded, although an unspoken quota remained for years. We assumed that all the founders would have been anti-Semitic, whereas in fact they were divided on that topic. And while the founders fiercely championed women's rights, they were also quite conservative in their restriction on their own faculty's behavior. One teaching candidate was not hired because she had short hair. There was concern about teachers riding bikes to school. Another teacher was fired for being considered too fast by the Sanders of the time. This was not because the founders necessarily personally disapproved of these behaviors, but because they were concerned about the school gaining a negative reputation among a more conservative clientele. Like many reformers, the founders had to choose between achieving their goal or staying true to all of their feminist ideals. One founder said, "The school is so revolutionary that I do not know whether our headmistress or secretary could afford to differ from other people in non-essential trifles which arouse prejudice." Bryn Mawr was such a radical project in its time that the founders privately worried constantly about alienating a skeptical public or actually making mistakes. They were historical figures working within the confines of their own present, and as such, they had to choose which battles they were going to fight and which ones they were going to leave for future generations.
The past never leaves a clear legacy of good or bad. Any one event or decision can be complicated, with multiple factors and parties involved. For instance, the decision to leave the original school in the city and move out to the suburbs in Roland Park was hotly contested. While parents and the headmistress had been advocating for this move for years, the remaining founders saw it as a betrayal of their original educational vision. The move was motivated by two impulses. The one, to provide students with a healthy, beautiful green space and a home-like, nurturing environment, and the other, to escape from Baltimore City, which was increasingly perceived as overrun by African Americans, immigrants, and the industrial working class. One of these is an admirable impulse that echoes our current whole girl, whole day educational philosophy, and the other has left a legacy of segregation that we're still working to overcome. A similar tension is apparent in the integration of the school. When Bryn Mawr made the decision to integrate in the early 1960s, its proponents defended integration in explicitly Christian language. In January of 1962, the headmistress, Catherine Van Bibber, made the announcement of the school's integration to the student body at prayers, a regular communal time held every day. The special Bible verse she chose for that occasion was Paul's epistle to the Corinthians, in which he wrote, "In this new man of God's design, there is no distinction between Greek and Hebrew, Jew or Gentile, foreigner or savage, slave or free man. Christ is all that matters, for Christ lives in us all." Immediately following this, Van Bibber announced that the board had decided to admit all qualified students regardless of race. It's ironic that the decision to allow racial diversity within the school was defended on grounds that ignored any religious diversity. Yet Van Bibber knew that in the 1960s, this was the most effective way to reach the majority of her audience. We would not use that rhetoric at Bryn Mawr today because it would alienate or exclude much of our community, but it was useful at that time.
So what do we take from the past?
What do we leave behind?
How do we choose what we wish to emulate and what we wish to reject?
And when we are faced with the complexity of living beings who are never entirely good and rarely entirely evil, how do we choose what we do with their legacy?
Everyone's answers to these questions is going to differ. Some prefer to burn bridges to their past, others to whitewash over it, still others to continue to feel a nostalgic connection while intellectually remaining critical.
We're not here to provide answers for you.
What we hope we've done is to tell you a bit more about Bryn Mawr's many, sometimes contradictory pasts.
There is not one Bryn Mawr to honor, there are many Bryn Mawrs to try to understand.
And then you may choose how you wish to move forward into Bryn Mawr's future.
One day, you will return to Bryn Mawr and find its physical spaces altered, its people changed, and its focus shifted, even as it remains recognizably your school.
You will stand on campus, feeling the ghosts of your past echo against the present. You will have changed, and so will the school.
Yet suddenly you may see how the school has shaped you and become a part of you, even as you have become a part of it.
Our hope for you is our needs and is an enduring school for future generations.
Just as there is not one Bryn Mawr, but many, there are not 5 founders whose past ideas matter, but all of us whose present initiatives will shape the future.
Each of us is a founder at Bryn Mawr, and together we continue building Bryn Mawr's legacy every day. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Riley and Dr. Spector-Marks. That was wonderful. And your words are so important in our Bryn Mawr history. What an incredible service to the school that you've done. Now, Associate Head of School Elaine Swyron and I have the pleasure of presenting awards to our faculty and staff who have made important personal and professional contributions to our school community. Totally appropriate to cheer wildly for this section of the program. And if your mother gets called up, then you really have to cheer, okay?
Good morning. First, I'd like to recognize faculty who are serving as chairs awarded in previous years. Please stand when I call your name. The Nancy L.R. Booker, Class of 31, Master Teacher Chair, Megan McMahon. The Julia Clayton Baker Chair in Environmental Stewardship, Brett McMillan. We thank you for your ongoing service and dedication to Bryn Mawr students. Now on to this year's awards. The Alumni STEM Chair was established in honor of the distinguished women scientists who began their education at this independent school and is to be awarded to the member of one of the STEM disciplines. The recipient, who holds the chair for 2 years, is selected by the head in consultation with the division directors. In the case of this year's recipient of the Alumni STEM Chair, the letters in STEM could also stand for serving the community, teaching excellence, and mentoring. Teaching excellence comes naturally to this teacher. Anyone who's had the opportunity to see her in action is immediately struck by how well she connects with each student. She is adept at teaching the various content involved in language arts, math, and history, but her teaching does not end there. She strives every day to help each student be the best person she can be. Dedicating a copious amount of time to research and inquiry, this teacher chaired the lower school math committee for the year-long effort, resulting in the lower school adopting a new math curriculum that reflects the academic excellence in mathematics for which Bryn Mawr is known. This teacher also serves the entire Bryn Mawr community. As chair of the Professional Development Committee, she helps create engaging days that inspire all faculty and staff. She has poured herself into the preparation of the upcoming National Coalition of Girls Schools Conference. Bryn Mawr will shine because of her dedication and attention to detail to ensure this national event runs smoothly. Without a doubt, she is a deserving recipient of the Alumni STEM Award. Congratulations to Kate Stratton. Next, we'll ask some students, 11th graders Caroline Sevier and Lila Anson, to present the APGAR Award for Teaching Excellence, which recognizes a teacher who has made a significant difference in students' lives by motivating students' interest, curiosity, and love of learning, applying new teaching concepts and methods that expand students' horizons and potential, and by serving as a mentor to stimulate the students' intellectual development beyond the curriculum and the classroom. Caroline and Lila, come on up.
The APGAR Award is one of the few awards granted with input from across the school community. Faculty and students are asked to nominate and explain the nomination of teachers who best represent excellence. This faculty member received broad support from many in the upper school. One student wrote in her nomination, "As someone who usually has trouble speaking up in class, she unknowingly made me feel like my ideas were valid and respected. I never hesitated to go to her if I needed more guidance on an essay or if I just wanted to say something that I didn't get a chance to in class."
When I was out of school for a few weeks, she always reassured me that she would get me caught up on everything and continually checked up on me. Right when I came back to school, she got me right where I needed to be and made sure I did not feel behind in class. A colleague wrote that this faculty member's lesson plans are diverse and creative. She holds her students to high standards, but she will always support them to help them succeed. Additionally, this educator is well known for her devotion to service as an advisor. It is clear that Dr. Waters has earned and truly deserves the APGAR Award for Teaching Excellence.
Thank you, Caroline and Lila. On the occasion of former headmistress Mrs. Stambaugh's departure from the Bryn Mawr School, the Board of Trustees created the next award to be given annually to a member of the faculty or staff who's contributed the most to the overall welfare and well-being of the school community. This year's Blair D. Stambaugh Award goes to a member of the faculty who has served as an essential leader in transforming the daily experience at Bryn Mawr to better meet the needs of today's students. This individual has worked tirelessly and with unwavering enthusiasm on building a new set of afternoon programs for upper school students that emphasize experiential learning and a focus of the world beyond Bryn Mawr. This faculty member has worked with leaders across Bryn Mawr and the entire tri-school community to ensure that our students are able to take advantage of every available curricular and co-curricular opportunity possible. He is engaged in this creative and innovative work while also supporting individual students in building their personal schedules, serving as an advisor, meeting with families, supporting the new summer academic offerings, and breaking in a new division director. We are all indebted to him for his endless dedication to Bryn Mawr and hope that this award lets him know just how much his contribution means to all of us. Congratulations to Jason George. The Blanche and A.V. Williams Master Teacher Chair was established by Jenny Lee Williams Folks, class of '65, in memory of her parents, who had abiding respect and admiration for the teaching profession. The chair is awarded to an outstanding teacher in any division or department. This faculty member is known for the very special way she has of reaching students of varying comfort levels and interests in her subject. Students time and again express that by year's end, they are much stronger and more confident math students than they were when they began her class. Her students sing praises to her gentleness as a teacher, her willingness to give her time outside of class, and the sincere effort she puts into planning her in-depth lessons. A quiet and calming presence, this faculty member has also contributed to the upper school community as chief advisor, has sponsored the Asian Student Union, and contributed to community service learning. Earlier this year, she opened this year's faculty convocation series with a well-received talk about identity, which shared her efforts to find a place where she fits. Her thoughtful and personal story served as a model for the ways in which convocation can provoke productive conversation and understanding of one another. We can think of no one who better fits Bryn Mawr. Congratulations to Vicki Miyamoto. The Cynthia, you good? Load up. All right. The Cynthia Labaudiere Teachership Award honors the memory of Cynthia Labaudiere, who graduated from Bryn Mawr School in 1970 and is awarded to a recent college graduate just beginning his or her teaching career with such qualities as a keen mind, ability with young people, and creative leadership. This teacher officially joined the Bryn Mawr faculty in 2016 after earning a Bachelor of Science in Child and Adolescent Studies. The first place she thought of as she began her career as a teacher was the Bryn Mawr Little School, where she herself attended as a child. When she joined our community, she quickly became a leader in the infant program by providing quality care to some of our youngest students. This teacher is an effective communicator, a skillful teacher, and a conscientious team member. She has the ability to recognize each student as an individual whose development encompasses more than cognitive growth, but also includes emotional, physical, and social well-being. She has a keen sense of determining what each child needs each day to grow and thrive. Her joyful nature and can-do attitude always brighten the day. Congratulations to Sierra Green. Very nice. The Elizabeth Sheridan Sinclair Chair in the Fine and Performing Arts was established by the Sheridan Foundation in memory of a longtime trustee and parent, Betsy Sinclair. The chair honors a member of the Fine and Performing Arts faculty for distinguished service in his or her field. Don't be fooled by this artist's quiet demeanor. Behind her placid exterior is fearless creativity and a fierce determination to bring out the artist in each of her students. This educator is always seeking connections to other subjects, to the Baltimore community, and to her students. Where can a Mosaic project bring the 6th grade history lessons about the Constitution alive for students? When can she enter the 8th grade sculptures into a competition at Ladue Gardens? How might the 7th grade hair portraits allow her students to understand and appreciate each other's cultures and identities in a deeper way? Her excellence as a teacher is only paralleled by her graciousness and patience, evidenced most recently by her designing and establishing a brand new art classroom on the top floor of the North Building in order to support the move of the Bryn Market. She is a quiet force of collegiality, collaboration, and kindness in all that she does. Congratulations to Mary Malai. The Ellis Spear Calhoun and Elizabeth Atkinson Reynolds Fund recognizes teachers who make significant contributions to the school outside the classroom. The concept of the fund recognizes a quality that typifies independent school teaching at its best, a dedication to young people as whole human beings beyond the limited scope and measurements of classroom performance. You might see this teacher out running at 6 in the morning by herself, or with a large group of students in the afternoon. In between, she is a seasoned English teacher who brings novels, poetry, and Shakespeare alive around her Harkness table. We're not sure when she's able to give her extensive, helpful comments on students' writing assignments, because when she's not writing, her desk is often surrounded by middle and upper school students seeking her calm aura and wonderful sense of humor. This teacher has garnered the respect of colleagues and students alike because she not only models gentleness, intellect, wellness, and strength, but she fosters it in her students in and out of the classroom. Helping students celebrate their progress in cross-country and in writing, she encourages goal-setting and healthy risk-taking in young women. She teaches them to strive for balance and personal growth in all aspects of their lives. Congratulations to Sarah Feiss. The Millicent Carey McIntosh Chair in the Humanities honors a member of the faculty whose teaching abilities, distinction in his or her field, and concern for the special educational needs of girls reflect the tradition of Millicent Carey McIntosh. A pedagogical innovator and mentor to many new faculty, this teacher leader works each day to build and sustain an enthusiasm for global languages and cultures, not as separate entities, but as vital components in understanding the human experience. Outside the classroom, she has emerged not only as a tireless advocate for language study, but as an advocate for student well-being broadly. She is an avid student and practitioner of conflict resolution strategies, a devoted and trusted advisor, and our resident expert on the Stanley King model of student support that appropriately deepens relationships between faculty and students. She is truly a model of humanitarian thinking and action. Congratulations to Bethany McAndrew. The Patricia A. Dieter Staff Award is presented to a member of the staff who has demonstrated outstanding loyalty, dedication, and hard work in support of the well-being of the school. This staff member knows every inch of this campus, having walked it many times. She is described as the consummate professional who works hard every day to keep students, faculty, and fellow staff members safe. This includes giving clear and concise advice during ALICE training sessions and working extra hours at dances, coffee houses, and other weekend and evening events. Her perpetual smile signals she is willing to help out in any way she can. It seems everyone on campus knows her name, can feel her positive energy, and has experienced her kindness and school spirit. Even when she has to write you a ticket, rest assured, at least it will be in perfect handwriting. Congratulations to Lakia Gary. The Robert G. Merrick Senior Chair in History was initiated by Mr. Merrick, one of Baltimore's leading philanthropists, before his death in 1986. It is funded by the Jacob and Anita France Foundation. Mr. Merrick's personal interest in history, as well as his family's history at the Bryn Mawr School, are represented in the creation of this endowed fund. This Master Teacher Chair honors faculty members who are distinguished in their profession and whose record of service is outstanding. For this teacher, teaching history is not just a passion. It serves a deeper purpose. This educator believes that the study of history encourages critical thinking about current events, helps students practice conversation norms, fosters productive debate, and provides boundless opportunities for honing their writing skills. This teacher not only sees a large role for history at Bryn Mawr, he offers his time generously to Bryn Mawr students beyond the history classroom. He's often seen counseling both middle and upper school students in any number of topics, coaching our upper school swim team, observing the afternoon supervision program, or leading karaoke at a house event. He is a go-to colleague for great ideas, tech advice, or if you're looking for a good ribbing. However, if you ask students, they will tell you his greatest superpower is teaching. He believes in allowing students to make mistakes and to choose the ways in which they learn material or are assessed best. He will give endless feedback and encouragement on student writing assignments, and students leave 8th grade with a confidence in this area and a love for history that they often attribute to him. Congratulations to Matt Hetrick. The 3745 Award is presented in honor of the faculty, administration, and staff who worked at Bryn Mawr during the years from 1937 to 1945. This award is given to a community member who has served the school with distinction. The recipient of this year's award is held in high regard by the entire Bryn Mawr community. Always offering a kind word and positive outlook, she has truly served the school with distinction. She immerses herself in the entire community, in the classroom, on the playground, in the dining center. An avid reader, she utilizes current research to guide and support students, families, and employees in all divisions. Throughout her outstanding career at Bryn Mawr, she never wavers when it comes to supporting the emotional and psychological well-being of our community. As the world's pace gets faster and we adjust to the impact of new technologies, this person helps us all find that work-play balance that can be so elusive in a 24/7 world. We are grateful to her for all she does for our community's wellness. Congratulations to Debbie Warnch. Congratulations again to all our award winners.
I should have said cheer wildly for your mothers and fathers if they get an award, but I didn't want to give it away, so. But we have a lot of Bryn Mawr parents up here. That's wonderful. It is a tradition on Founders Day to also recognize members of our community for achieving significant milestones in their service to Bryn Mawr. We do this at the beginning of the school year so we can properly inaugurate their special year of celebration. As I call your name, please come forward to receive your award. For 5 years of service, Deb Baum, our communications director. Frank Ecker. Tanisha Guthrie. Kristen Kennedy. And Melissa Siegel. For 10 years of service, Bethany McAndrew, Megan McMahon, and Kevin Sun. For 15 years of service, Sungmin Chung, Rob Davis, Elizabeth Gray, Colleen Hansen, Pat O'Gorman, Suzanne Pugh, Suzanne Stevens, and Mathilde Taborda Almger. And now for the big one, 25 years. Actually, it's not the big one, 25 years. Ann Baradas. Jerry Brown. And Elaine Swyron. And for, I'm missing a name, 35 years, Lori Peters. That is a lot of years. Thank you very much, Lori. So I want to acknowledge a few people who are celebrating milestone years, but they are not with us today. Marissa Lanterman has been here for 5 years, Albert Bonnet and Elizabeth Hare for 10 years, Thomas Rutledge, 15 years, Midge Menton and Patty Whalen, 20 years, and Francie Apollony, 25 years. Congratulations to all of our award winners, and thank you to all of our faculty and staff for everything you do every day for Bryn Mawr. Before we dismiss, I want to thank everyone for joining us this morning, our trustees, our special guests, and our faculty, students, and staff. Because Founders Day celebrates Bryn Mawr's birthday, there will be cupcakes for dessert during lunch, and a cookout, and we will also have music performed by our own house band, Edith Jamilton. Immediately following our program today, our faculty and staff award recipients and their special guests are invited to a reception in the Gordon Building. To all of our students gathered here today, I hope that years from now you will remember these school traditions, these moments celebrating together as a whole school, the feeling of this close community. You are part of an extraordinary institution, created by women and led by women throughout the school's 135 years. Remember that you are also a part of this school's history. Bryn Mawr is made up of the best of each of us every single day. As we conclude our program today with our tradition, Jerusalem, I ask you to remain seated until the seniors dismiss. Now I'd like to have Desai come forward. Yes, the seniors get a round of applause too.
Shall my sword sleep in my hand till we have purged Jerusalem in England's green and pleasant land?
Thank you, Desai. Beautiful. I hope when you hear that, you connect yourself with all the women who have gone before us. Seniors, one round of applause for our class of 2020. You are dismissed.
It might seem crazy what I'm about to say.
And now the rest of us are dismissed.
You can take a break.